aspiring for excellence is very much present. Okay, let's get into it. So, things I want to talk through the latest research, the latest developments, the blend that I've made for sale, the online 4-week deep dive workshop next week at Ngatai Eruapa here in Tuaku, the Harakeke compost. Sorry, that's how that research is going. And then go off on a tangent and share about the snail mucin, which is actually one of the most popular topics on Instagram at the moment. That's been funny. Wish list for the microscope, the CPP. I have followed the request from, I think it was Vivian Griffiths at the workshop at the research conference last year, who said we need to test the floral compost activator with CPP. So I've got a batch outside, and 2 batches side by side. One of them has eggshells, one of them has snail shells, crushed snail shells. We could turn that into a tongue twister. So I'll share about my observations with that, and then tips for Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, what to do now if you want to get into this method, and then wrap up with a chat about seeds, and then another new project I'm calling the Blue Borage Book Club. And the first book is this one, which is on loan from Te Wananga o Aotearoa, and it's interloan from AUT. So I've only got it till, I think, the 3rd of March, which is only 2 weeks. Okay, back to the beginning. All right, the 3 bin research comparison. So what I did with this was I was curious about the floral compost activator with the dried flowers versus the fresh flowers. Is there a difference between the two? So I got 3 of my big, well, 23-litre buckets, which were gifted to me by Auckland Council years ago as rejects from their food scrap collection pilot study. And they kept the same brand. So by using these 23-litre rectangular buckets, my customers can see, oh, I don't use my food scrap collection because I compost, but I could be using that bucket for other purposes. So I had 3 of those. I filled them to the brim with half-done compost from my food scrap composting. So there were food scraps. It wasn't smelly, but it could have gone smelly. A bit of water, the same volume as what I was putting in the other 2. The second one got the floral compost activator following May Bruce's QR recipe. And the third one got the same blend, but using fresh flowers, not dried. And I put labels on the top, paper stickers, and made a note in my diary to open them in 3 weeks, which was the 1st of February. In the time, I got a bag of wool from Dr. Leanne Mackey on her sheep farm, and I had this bag of wool stuffed onto the table, and it was resting on the lid of the buckets, and we had all that heavy, heavy rain. All that to say, the paper stickers, one of them washed off completely, one of them half washed off, and the only one I could read was the one that said control. So at least I knew which one was the control, but the other 2 buckets, I can't tell which was the fresh flowers and which was the dried flowers. But I had 3 buckets, tipped them all out, had a good feel. They felt pretty much the same. The control, there's notes I made, the control felt like it had way more grass in the bottom. So it didn't break down consistently, or the other 2, the floral compost activator, helped the grass at the bottom of those buckets turn into soil. That's what I get from that. Okay. One of them had a big, fat, mature tiger slug. Another had a baby tiger slug. Do the tiger slugs make a difference? They probably do. The worm populations were different, and the feeling was quite subtle. So I need to repeat this and actually, next time I do it, I'd like 15 buckets so that there's 5 of each type. So each container had collapsed, and I'm wondering whether measuring how many centimeters from the top of the bucket it had collapsed down to, whether that's something that's useful. And then next up, I sifted through a 6 millimeter sieve and weighed the soil in each one. So the control ended up with 3.2 kilos of sifted fine crumbly soil. And the other 2 buckets ended up with 2.5 kilos and 3.4 kilos. So one much less, one a little bit more. So no real findings there. And yeah, so was there an outlier in that data? I need to keep going and do it again with more buckets and get more accurate information. Next experiment. This was the 2nd of February. I was curious. I've got 4 different sources of chamomile. And I know as we get to the end of summer here in New Zealand, people can't grow chamomile from seed and get their own flowers. That can they use chamomile tea? And the downfall with buying commercial herbal tea is that you don't get the benefits of that plant in your garden with the roots affecting the plants around it. You don't get pollinators coming in. It's not as good. It's never going to be as good, which is one of the reasons I'm so reluctant to sell the finished powdered remedy, because I want people increasing biodiversity in their gardens. However, in winter, we probably have to compromise. So I had my chamomile from last year, my chamomile from this year. I had chamomile tea from Michael Thompson in Wales that he gave me at the research conference. And then I had commercial chamomile tea. It's probably not organic. That is probably close to expiry. And I had the 4 batches side by side. Mistake I made was that the commercial tea, because it was so fine and crumbly, I think I added more of that to the jar. So it actually kind of fizzed up and got darker and smelled richer. That it's like, oh, okay. So adding to my wish list a scales that go really, really fine. At the moment, I can measure, I think, to a gram, but not any finer. So, what else to say on that? Another research that Mae Bruce did was looking at which of the 6 plants was most effective. She ended up deciding it was yarrow and nettle that were essential, basically essential. And nettle, I think, was the most important for any batch. So I would like to research the qualities of each of the plants and then the different combinations and find out how much of a compromise is it if you don't have valerian or you don't have chamomile. So onwards. Next bullet point. I have a spice blender. And I used that to blend up dried sunflowers, and it was so satisfying. They smell so good. And this batch here is the first batch that I've made with the intention of selling it. And it's got the 6 herbs for the QR recipe, and then I've added another 3 that had this feeling of the end of summer and the flowers that I'd most enjoyed collecting that I wanted to capture in liquid form to infuse the soil. So yeah, one of those is sunflower, and it has this kind of radiant quality that, yeah, this has 12 teaspoons. So there's 12 batches that I would like to send to 12 different areas throughout New Zealand to people who will follow the method, use local honey, get it fermenting, and then dilute it to up to 10,000 litres and share with their local community, so that it's not just 12 gardens, but 1,200 gardens would be possible. So the spice blender, when Mae Bruce started by using a mortar and pestle and sifting it, and then I think I can't remember if she got a spice blender or if it was when things outgrew her home operation that she outsourced the mixing, and it was a commercial blender, and the results improved. And I think that's because the greater the surface area, the more activity there is. So that's the Spice Blender and Radiance. I have this in the Ko-fi shop online, only available to send within New Zealand. So you can order that. Next up, 4-week deep dive. So when I first started this, I set up a Podia online course and I called it the research group, and I had half a dozen people and we bounced around. And then once we got into the International Biodynamic Research Conference, it felt like time to open it up to a wider community, and that's when we started the Substack, June 2025. So Substack is great, but a lot of my customers either don't like Substack, don't like social media, don't want to be on the screens all the time, and want a simple introduction, like to go deep and thorough and implement without having to kind of replicate the work that I've done for the last year and 2 months. And so I have created an online program. I've called it a 4-week deep dive. I think 4 weeks is long enough to transform an element of your composting, address the challenges and frustrations, get the plants in the ground, harvest the flowers that are possible to harvest at whatever time of year it is, dry them, make a blend, see it fizz, dilute it, add it, and see the very initial results. You don't see the sort of results 10, 12 weeks later, but I think 4 weeks is a nice container. So that is now up on Podia, and I will take a small group at a time. Rolling intake. When you join, you get an introductory phone call with me so we can get an inventory of your herbs and flowers and compost systems and figure out what are the sort of challenges or frustrations you'd like to overcome in the next 4 weeks so that we create a project specific to you. And then help you source any of the biodynamic plants that you need to get, ideally locally. So I know biodynamic growers throughout New Zealand, actually throughout the world. And if I don't know someone in your area, I'll know someone who knows how to get you connected up so that you get those local plants and local seeds. So yeah, the intake call and then the online course, there's like 4 weeks as sort of stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a resource library, which will grow as people work through the 4-week program. And additional element that I don't quite know how to describe yet, but I will include nature communication. So I'll tune into the land, the garden of each person, and there will be an element of telepathy. I'm not sure if we'll do it as a group that kind of tune in at the same time each day, or if I'll align with the human design transits, or if it'll be each person has their own kind of check-in point for telepathic exchange. But it really feels to me like as we kind of like as energy healers, as we get ready for a world that is becoming more and more chaotic, we need structures that work even if there's no internet. And I know more and more people are developing telepathic skills. I know I can tune in remotely with compost, land, trees, plants, flowers, and yeah, let's bring this into a research program and see what happens. Next update, so much to share this week. Ngatai e Rua Pa, the local not a marae, it's Pa here in Tuako. We've got a workshop next week on Floral Compost Activator, and fingers crossed, I so hope that the conversation, the brainstorm evolves into, yeah, this is great, but these are plants originating from Europe. How do we make this ours? And I'm hoping we can go for a walk around the property and look at the trees and the native plants and start to say, well, what would that do as rongua for the soil? So stay tuned on that. Okay, harakeke compost. This is like I've been carrying my little container of soft, crumbly soil absolutely everywhere. It's just beautiful. And weavers, weaving teachers, people who do parks, they like people are blown away that I have made that out of nothing but harakeke. This is a plant fiber that's often sent to landfill because it can't be composted in commercial machinery. Fiber's too long, too strong. And somewhere along the line, I blame colonization for this, but somewhere along the line, people decided it just couldn't be composted full stop. A lot of weavers will lay it down somewhere in their harakeke just as weed suppression. It slowly returns to the earth, but I'm curious about whether this compost may have beneficial properties that, as weavers, we can actually share with our community or even have a side hustle and um, in nature communication, the harakeke. So watch the space. I'll keep up with that research. So today I'm going to start 3 batches with my 23-liter containers and have a control, a floral compost activator, and a blend of native plants and flowers that I was given by a weaving Raranga classmate who's done rongua, herbal medicinal studies, and see how it turns out. Okay, next up, snail mucin. I don't want to say too much about this here in the flower project because it's kind of a separate research topic, but one of the most popular subjects on Instagram at the moment. So I'm working on a guide to indoor snail farming to share how I gather the mucin without not just without harming the snails, but without putting them into any sort of discomfort whatsoever. I'm really bothered by commercial snail farming protocols, and as a nature communicator, I don't think they're working with the snails. I don't think they have the consent. Onwards. Okay, the microscope, the petri dishes. This is like urgent homework. I know that the local high school has. I spoke to the principal at a meeting recently and said I was after petri dishes, and he said, "Come talk to the science teacher." So I need to go check out their composting, and there might be some high school students that would work with me on looking at what I'm doing under the microscope and using it in their studies. Yeah, let you know how that goes. Next up, CPP. So at the International Biodynamic Research Conference last year, I was asked to try the floral compost activator with cow manure in CPP as an alternative to the biodynamic compost preparations. It won't ever be Demeter certified biodynamic CPP. It's not a real recipe. But if it's an improvement over simple aged cow manure, then it's worth doing. Here where I live in the North Waikato, it's dairy country. There's so many cows. I have not yet connected with an organic dairy farmer, so I don't have an unlimited supply of cow manure. I've got a friend with cows that I go jump the fence and collect a couple of buckets, and that's enough for me. But and you can connect me with an organic dairy farmer in the North Waikato area that I can get to in a sort of up to 10-minute drive, then I would be ever so grateful. Okay, next up, tips on floral compost if you're in the southern hemisphere, gather up the final flowers, the valerian, the chamomile, the yarrow, dandelions. And remember, dandelions need to be picked while the centers aren't quite fully opened. That really is precious, and you don't need much. So we heading into autumn, into the sort of traditional compost season. That I would ask, if you haven't done the floral compost activator yet, do some intentional side by side parallel trials, one with the floral compost activator, one without, and see what you notice. I did this was it 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and I had two piles identical, and I put biodynamic preps in just one of them. I couldn't tell the difference when I opened them up, and I think the piles were too close. They were like talking to each other. Anyway, tips if you are in the northern hemisphere. You're coming to the end of winter. I'm seeing on Instagram everyone's getting their seeds started inside and got the grow lights and their heat maps, and it's like, oh, so exciting. So happy for you to be like planning a growing season ahead. And my request is plant more flowers, particularly the medicinal flowers, and chamomile, valerian, dandelion, yarrow, and nettle. If you can get those their own, like, give them more space than you've ever given them before, so that by the middle of summer you have an ample supply of flowers to harvest. Two more updates. Seeds for the soil. This is a project from Alex Edelson and Petra Derrickson on behalf of the Biodynamic Federation Demeter International, coming out of, I think, also connected with the Section for Agriculture. I might have the information slightly wrong there. Anyway, Alex Edelson did a seed producers training series last year. And I applied to continue the work, and my application looks like it's been accepted. So we have a Zoom call end of March. I'm allowed to bring my team members along. And so I'm inviting people mostly in New Zealand to join this project, Seeds for the Soil, to have seeds available for people who want to improve the quality of their compost by growing herbs and flowers, and have that be supportive of the floral compost activator research work. And my vision is that if you want seeds, you should be able to find them locally. So rather than sending my seeds down to the South Island, I would find someone who I know is growing to organic, biodynamic, who are part of Kore principles, and that they're clean seeds. They're not tainted with genetically modified organisms. And I refer my customers to them to get their seeds. So is that a cooperative or collaborative approach? I don't know, but I think that's the future we need to move towards to support the small scale seed producers, the ones who are specializing in niche plants. In response to that. So, Seeds for the Soil, stay tuned for that. And then final update is book club. So last year, through the Flower Project with the paid subscribers, we read Maeve Bruce's Common Sense Compost Making. Sorry. Just going to silence that phone call coming in. And this year, first up, I would like to work through crafting. And this is supportive of my weaving studies, which we begin with the one-day wānanga tomorrow. That's the last little thing I made. Little handbag there. And I think I'm actually quite attached to this, so I might have to keep it. Crafting, transforming materials and the maker. Written by Bernard Graves, edited by Jonathan Code, and each chapter is a different craftsperson. I think a lot of them are based at the Ruskin Mill Trust in the UK. So this obviously doesn't include harakeke or raranga, and it's like, is there a book two? Could book two be Indigenous crafts from different cultures around the world? And can we get the Ruskin Mill people over here to take a look at what's happening and take the weavers to the UK? When I was in the UK last year, I saw lots and lots of harakeke plants. I just wanted to clean them and weave with them and make something for the people looking after that space. Just to, I don't know, really honour the plant as a precious fibre. So I think that's enough for today. We are at 28 minutes. So often on these community calls, I will make a batch of floral compost activator. I went to look for the jars with the native plants, and I don't have any of the flowers, so I need to go harvest some today if that particular plant is still in flower. Otherwise, I'll use either the leaves or the bark. Yeah, so lots on. Thank you so much for all the support, whether it's likes and follows and shares and comments, or referring me to organisations who you think would find this work useful. The spreadsheet with harakeke composting, I think I'm up to, the last look, it was 42 people, a lot of them in the same organisation, but I think 3 schools, 1 community garden, 1 marae, that want to stop sending the harakeke to landfill. And I'm here for that. Pay my petrol. help me pay my bills, and we can transform the narrative around harakeke fibre. So over and out for now. Thank you for staying to the end. Bye.